Shalom, welcome to Hebraic Awakening. We're going to dive into the importance of sheep as we celebrate our high holy feast days. We need to know the basics, okay? Sometimes we dive into the deep, as I said in my previous video. If you have not watched the barley video, please do so, because when you tell your family, oh, this is the month of Abib, please know what you're talking about, right? Please take the time to study, because our families think that we're nuts because we don't even know what we're talking about. And so we must study to show ourselves approved, rightly dividing the Torah. And so the only way you're going to know how to do that is to try, right? And so let's take a step back from listening to so many Hebrew teachers who claim to be Hebrew teachers, and let's take the time to study. Okay, so please look at that word barley, look at it in scripture, and watch the video so you will know how to study. Okay, don't take my word for it, study for yourself. All right, we're going to dive into the importance of sheep, because we we are sheep. The Most High, He has compared us to sheep, so we need to know why He has compared us to sheep, and just get to know the basics of this animal that's, I think, is the most mentioned throughout the whole Bible. Okay, King Dawid referred to himself as a lost sheep, all right? Psalms 119, verse 76. You can find 12 different variations of the word sheep in the Bible, all right? So remember, our language, it reflects our lifestyle and our culture. So we're going to go over the Hebrew letters for sheep. Kesh Oved. All right, so we're going to break them down, the Hebrew letters, really quickly so we can get a picture of what the Most High is talking about. And this is the Hebrew word for lost sheep, all right? The kaf, the picture of a hand or the palm of a hand, to bend, to allow, to tame, to subdue. This is dealing with potential as well. The letter shin, the picture of teeth, to press, to eat. Sharp, to tear apart your food. Hey, the picture of a man, to behold, to reveal. Aleph, which is the strong leader. Beit, the house which the family resides in. And Dalet, door, to enter, to go in, back and forth. All right, so these are the Hebrew letters that make up the word lost sheep. Now, that's the positive side of the letters. Now, the negative side is that we are not allowing the Most High to subdue or tame us as lost sheep. We are not allowing Him to feed us Torah as lost sheep. We are not allowing Him to reveal Himself to us as lost sheep. We are not allowing Him to be the strong leader as lost sheep. We are running away from the house instead of going to the house as lost sheep. We are not entering the gates or the door, which is the Hamashiach, but we're not entering the gate or the door. We're running away from it. So every time you see a Hebrew letter, there's positive and negative as well. So this is the picture of a lost sheep. A sheep is first mentioned in the Cain and Abel story found in Genesis 4:4, right? So we can argue that, maybe the sheep was found with Adam and Hawa, as they disobeyed and got kicked out and was uncovered, and the Most High had to make a sacrifice and cover them with, skins of an animal. We can argue that it was a sheep, but the actual word sheep is found when you go to html.bible, my favorite free resource, and you click on the word flock, which is another variation of sheep. You're going to get the word, right? You're going to see the word. All right, some facts about sheep. They are the most profitable business back then, especially for our people. We can find that in Isaiah 7:21 through 22, Proverbs 27, verse 27, Deuteronomy 14:4. It's a sign of wealth, all right? Most use animal for sacrifices, say a male lamb. So a shepherd is the most lowliest, occupation back then. It was given to the youngest of the family, right? So this is not being a shepherd, as many of us want to be so bad. We want to be a shepherd, but really it's a lowly status. It's a humbling status. So, people need to be careful when they want to become leaders, and especially of assemblies, over the Most High's sheep. All right, let's dig into some more facts about sheep. They are prone to wander away in constant movement in search of green pastures. All right, so facts about sheep, which we're going to compare it to us at the same time. So first the natural, then the spiritual. So sheep, they love to go and eat. All right, so we already know how we Black Hebrews are. Our community love to eat. Okay, we love to eat and throw a party, honey. And we have eaten ourselves into obesity. I'm just saying, y'all. We have eaten ourselves into obesity, especially over here with this food. Sheep will eat so much that they will kill themselves from eating so much food. So, right, you can see the picture of Israel today. Just eating knowledge everywhere, just eating it up. Every time somebody come out with a new doctrine, your foundation or your core is shaking and you're running to that doctrine. Just eating, grazing everywhere. And because sheep have a delicate rumen or stomach, this is why you die. So, spiritually, okay, our stomachs are delicate. We can't eat meat that's too hard for us. All right. I already shared the vision that the Most High gave me when I was trying to eat meat when I was still a babe, which many of us do. We're out here eating strong meat and we still need milk and soft food. And so it is, with the sheep. They eat and their stomachs cannot take it and they end up killing themselves. Just like we do spiritually. We eat, and sometimes we become sick spiritually, and then we just spiritually die. All right, sheep are helpless without a shepherd. Most people think sheep are dumb, but they are not. They're just as wise as cattle. So you have to do your research on that. But sheep are not dumb. Sheep do not have a built-in defense system. Okay, they lack discernment. So what they will do as their defense system is just gather together tightly in flocks. And I'm laughing because every time I look at the sheep, I just see us as is Israel. We don't got no defense system. We just love everybody. We're trusting everybody, trusting every new moray that came out and only been awakened 3 months. And we trust their word. We trust their theology. And, we're just sheep, okay? We are just sheep. So they will follow whoever leads them, regardless of how dangerous or foolish that shepherd is. Okay, so we talked about how they were prone to wander away. You can find that in Ezekiel 34:6, actually 6 through 13. So, that's with Israel. Because I often wondered why a lot of our people can't see the danger. And I'm like, Don't people got discernment? And what the Most High is showing me is that those of us, we have a gift of discernment. So this discernment that I thought was built in because we are sheep, it is not. And so I'm like, how come you can't see, feel, or hear that person is coming from an ill place? Even if you don't know theoretically, or you can intelligently break things down as to why you feel this way, your discernment kicks in, right? And you just know. But most of us lack discernment. So I just really pray that Israel will begin to pray for discernment. Because, honey, we really don't have any as a whole. There are those of us that have the gift of discernment, and we're trying to look out, and people cannot see. And we like, why you can't see? This is dead in your face. But they just can't see. So sheep lack discernment. So all we know to do is get into these little groups. You got 50,000 different groups, and you get into these little flocks, and you gather together tightly, and that's your defense mechanism. And we see ourselves in these tight-knit groups, and we don't want to fellowship with anyone else. We don't want to, talk to anyone else. And we just see that flocking, or that tight flocking, just come into play as we look around Israel today. All right, I want to circle back just for a second to this eating, because it's just fascinating. Sheep have to be led to a new field every day because of their overeating by a shepherd. And in the morning time, when sheep get up and the gate and the pen is closed and the shepherd is getting ready to let them out, they eager, they got full of energy. And when that shepherd opens the gate, they don't just come out like they got some sense. They stampede out of that pen with all of that energy ready to eat. And it just reminds me of the Popeye's chicken sandwich. Y'all remember that? And how us was just acting a whole food. And we were like sheep. Somebody brought out a chicken sandwich and said it was good, and we just flocked. Because chicken is our favorite food. And we just flocked to that chicken and stampeded, ran people over, cussed people out, fought. I don't know if someone died, but it's a whole mess. And I still haven't had one of them little stupid chicken sandwiches, because I seen it. I think one of my children finally got it. It looked burnt up and dry. I mean, I was like, that's a psychological thing, because that chicken sandwich, no ma'am, no sir. But anyway, it just shows the psychology of us as sheep. So, we got to not want to eat all the time, okay? Both naturally and spiritually, right? We have delicate rumens or stomachs. All right, I just want to do a little sidebar and talk about women that were shepherds. Okay, y'all just clutch your pearls, because I know the men who hate women to speak. And this is both natural and spiritual, y'all. Okay, I didn't say they were priests. That's not what I said. I said they were shepherds. All right, so the matriarch Rachel, her name actually means ewe, E-W-E. That's a female sheep. Genesis 29, 6-9. Okay. She came with her father's sheep. That's just letting you know. Like, where's say in the script? Where's say that at? Listen. Everything is not spelled out because you supposed to already culturally know this stuff. Right? But because we are removed from our culture, just like sheep, we just lost. And we just don't understand how scripture is laid out, and not everything is spelled out. You have to go to other books. You have to go to historical books and so forth. So you see it in Genesis 29, 6 through 9. And when you see that she came with her father's sheep, that's a context clue that she was a shepherd. Zipporah, Exodus 2 and 16. Okay, her father was the priest of Midian. He had 7 daughters. They came to draw water for their father's flock. So when you see stuff like that, she came with her father's sheep. They came to draw water for the flock. That's letting you know that they were shepherds. And my husband, he came on with it. He was like, Moshe was taught by women shepherds. And we know that the father was there. And I'm not saying that the father did not also teach Moshe, but the women were shepherd. And this is why Moshe had the temperament that he had. All right. Because in Matthew 7, verse 15, in the Hebrew version, remember, I did a video talking about the Hebrew Gospels. Okay, so in the Hebrew version of the book of Matthew, verse 15, it talks about prophets dressing and coming like ewes, E-W-E, a female sheep. Their clothing that they will put on is in reference to a female sheep. Okay, so you need to do your due diligence and look at the characteristics of a female sheep. Okay, so just like a woman, we care very deeply for our children. We form special bonds with our children. We literally are our children's first teachers. Okay, they recognize us in the womb. And so these false prophets and false shepherds would come just like that. Just like that. These false shepherds and these false prophets will come. And that's why we're so easily swayed by all of these false shepherds. People who claim themselves a leader and a moray and a rabbi and an apostle. It's because they're coming and they know these false fallen spirits, these unclean spirits. They know how to dress themselves, okay, as angels of light, so to speak. And they know how to woo us, and they know how to make us feel taken care of and give us little good trinkets, so we think. And this is why a lot of us are blinded. Because again, I'm like, you can't see that fool. Like he just said that you can't hear that. Like your spiritual ear couldn't hear it, even if you could not intelligently say why that was false. Your spiritual ear, that sound, we're going to talk about that. That sound should have been artificial to you. You should have been like, I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about, but no. Right? And so we're going to talk about the shepherd's voice. So we're going to talk about the voice or the Messiah and the sheep gate. So let's get to the sheep gate first. The prophetic significance of the sheep gate. Okay, so the sheep gate, it was built and it was restored by Eliashib. Am I saying that right? The high priest and his brothers doing the reconstruction of Jerusalem. That's found in the book of Nehemiah. We should know that. This gate was built so that sheep could enter in through the countryside into a one-way gate used for sacrificing. So they come in one way, but they don't leave out, right? They were used for sacrificing. This particular gate faced north, which means judgment. Remember, I talked about in a previous video that when you see the word north, that it is always referring to judgment. So you need to do your due diligence and you need to search the scriptures. And I'm going to give you the book of Ezekiel and look at the meaning of north. So we know that the sheep were used because of our sins, right? So the gate was facing the north. Also, the pool. The gate also had a pool. And we see that in the renewed covenant when Messiah, is on the scene getting people together as per usual. Okay, the sheep were used, or the sheep were bathed before sacrificing them. So you see how they collected rainwater, which is the purest form of water, right? And they had to bathe the sheep in this pure water, preparing them for sacrifice. So Messiah, he goes on to say that he is the shepherd that sit at the gate. John 5, verses 1 through 18. Messiah challenged those at the gate, right? So he wasn't just standing there, haphazardly. The way that they were doing things, he always had a problem with the way these religious Pharisees were doing things. And it is because that, yes, the sheep were brought in through that gate, but guess who else were brought in or left at the gate? There were particular people that society would bring in right through the countryside and leave them at the gate. Now, yes, people were left at the gate to access the pool that the angel would come, and trouble the water, and healings would break out. But also, the religious leaders allow people to drop the lame, the blind, the paralyzed off and leave them there, right? So we see the story of the paralytic, and he is like, I've been sitting here, waiting for somebody to help me to get in the pool. But every time, I try to get in, somebody get in before me. So this was an ongoing thing, and the Messiah is standing there watching, and that leads me back to us, right? So we're always comparing ourselves. So in the Israelite community, we love to debate, we love knowledge, we love forming these assemblies and congregations, but what we don't love doing is taking care of the most vulnerable. My husband and I, we have been giving food to the widows and the elders, helping them with things that they need, starting a community garden, giving them fresh fruits and vegetables, the disabled as well. We feed the homeless, and we're not bragging about it. Because when I hear people say, well, you shouldn't really let people know, that you're feeding the homeless, that is a cop-out excuse, because you're not doing nothing. And I'm just going to be real blunt. They take scriptures out of context. You do not brag about what you do. But as people who are waking up, one of the things that have gotten us in trouble is not taking care of the most vulnerable. Not taking care of those that do not have a covering. And Israel want to debate about who we are, but nobody is debating about taking care of the vulnerable. Nobody is debating about which assemblies are going to be responsible for the widows, which assemblies are going to be responsible for the disabled, which assemblies is going to be responsible for the homeless, which assemblies is going to be responsible for the fatherless. We don't argue or debate and have 5-hour dissertations about that, because I'm sorry, we just don't care about the most vulnerable. And the Messiah hates that, because it's written over and over and over again to take care of them. But what do? We hide them, we leave them, and they're usually in the urban areas. We leave them in the nursing homes, and we just don't care. And so, no, I am not bragging about what we do in our community. I am hoping that we are an example and that others will follow. And I know that there are people who do give, but Israel as a whole, we do not. And it reminds me of us when I hear the Messiah saying what he said. And he's standing at the gate. And this poor man, where's the Israelites to help him? Everybody's stepping over him. Everybody worried about themselves. Well, I can't give. I can't help because I only got a little. Are you serious? You don't believe that the Most High will multiply what you have in your hand? That he will bless you. He will bless your cupboards. He will bless your house once you return. You still really don't believe that he is your El Shaddai, or he is your provider. You don't believe that he is your shepherd and he will lead you to green pastures. You do not believe that. You do not believe that he will heal you, and you don't want to help others to be healed because you yourself don't believe. And so, just looking at this story, I was like, wow, we are still, casting our most vulnerable people off to the side, and they just gonna have to get a miracle, the best way that they can, because we too busy, setting up our prepping pantries and, storing up food for us, to where we don't even want to go in our pantries and get rid of the leaven and give it away. We want to keep it, and we want to argue about getting rid of the leaven. I mean, it's a heart issue. As my husband always says, Israel has a heart issue. So we have to get back to covering the most vulnerable. Messiah makes this declaration, and he tells the people that he is the shepherd, and that when the gatekeeper opens the gate, he will call his sheep, and that his sheep that belong to him will respond to his voice. A stranger or another shepherd, they won't follow. So the natural side of sheep is that you can really train them to your voice. That if you have a sheep, you can even name them and they will respond to the name that you give them. And they will not follow another once you train them to your voice. Right? So when you look up these words, even in the Greek, and the Messiah says another shepherd, they won't follow because they hear his voice. When you click on those words, one of those Greek words was phone, like a phone, for noise. But it's not just any noise. It's an artificial noise. It's not the authentic noise. It's not the authentic voice. It's an artificial voice. It's an artificial sound. So spiritually, the sheep won't adhere to the false shepherd or the false prophet because there's an artificial sound, and you're going to discern it, and then you won't follow. It's not that you're not going to hear it. You're going to hear the voice, and you're going to hear the false people speaking to you, but you're not going to follow that artificial noise, because this noise is also compared to like an alien noise. But this alien noise is hostile. This is not just a sound. This is a hostile, foreign, artificial noise that you hear spiritually. And when the false prophets and the false shepherds speak, you automatically discern it. And so the Messiah, he goes on to say that when the sheep come in through his gate, that they are going to be able to come in, and they're going to be able to go out, and they're going to be able to find green pastures, because he's the shepherd. He's going to lead you to the green pastures, and you're not going to overeat. Why? Because the shepherd has trained you to his voice. And he's going to call. He's going to say, okay, go eat over here. Go eat over there. That's enough. And I'm sitting like, I'm just studying this like, wow. I mean, I have been following the Most High, since 1996. 1996. And I came into this walk in 2009, 2010. And every time I'm sitting down dissecting this word, I'm learning something new. And it's not, something new that's going to tear me away from my foundation, meaning that it's something new that's going to solidify and affirm my foundation. And many of us, when we hear something new, it tears us away from our foundation. But every time I read and study the Mashiach, it just solidifies who he is in my life and how I have to sit at his feet and learn his voice, because he is the good shepherd. And I hope that during this Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread and First Fruits and this season of Passover, because if you can't honor it, you get a whole nother 30 days. And I know there's some people out here that feel you can't keep the Passover and the feast unless it's in your land. And I always go back, where is the first mention of feast? Where is the first mention of Moedim? Because when you see the first mention of something, that is the foundation and it is established in truth. And just because we sin and we fall, it doesn't remove the truth of when you first found that word. And that word was given before the land was given. That word was given before Adam and Kawah. So it don't have nothing to do with us. These are the Most High's feasts. It is established and settled in the Shemaims. It is established and settled in the universe. It is established and settled on the earth. Now, did he give us a place where we can have to ourselves and worship him, freely, and we were protected because we had land? Yes. But the feasts were established before that. So if you have not seen my video talking about the Moedims, can we keep them? I encourage you to sit there and to study. Study the scriptures where you first see the word Moedim and break it down, because these Moedims were established even before the earth, right? And so, I'm not going to argue back and forth with people. If you choose not to really commemorate them and you just remember them and, talk about them, that's fine. But as for me and my house, the Moedim is a rehearsal. And this is a spiritual rehearsal. You know what I'm saying? It's a spiritual rehearsal. So that when the Messiah come back, I'm praying I'll be ready. At least I won't be sitting there like, what you talking about? What? I am going to have some little knowledge of the feast and how it is supposed to be done, because I'm rehearsing. But that's just me. Everyone do what you're supposed to do, how the Most High leads you. But for those that are commemorating and keeping the Pesach the best way that they can in the land of our captivity, I pray that we look at the Messiah and re-study our Mashiach. Sit at his feet, learn his voice, learn the Torah, learn. All right. So I hope this video has helped you. And until the next video, shalom, everyone.